Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar, College Preparedness with the University of Cincinnati and CollegeAdvantage. I'm Mackenzie Morin, Senior Director with the University of Cincinnati Alumni Association. At the Alumni Association, we strive to create meaningful opportunities for our alumni to stay engaged with their alma mater and one another. I'll be your moderator today, and I did want to let you know we are recording this webinar, so we'll be able to add it to the Alumni Association's YouTube channel and share it with you at a future date. Today, we're going to explore how to prepare for your child, grandchild, or even your own collegiate future. To help us with this, I'll be joined by two industry experts who will share their insight on how to make higher education more affordable and explore the value of a UC degree. Our webinar will be divided into three sections. First, we'll hear from Trisha Good, the Interim Executive Director with Ohio Tuition Trust Authority. She'll explain how the Ohio 529 plan works and the benefits that it provides. Then we'll be joined by Nick Rejebian from the University of Cincinnati's Office of Admission. He will share what sets that UC degree apart from other institutions and how to prepare for the admissions process. We'll wrap up with a Q&A session with both Trisha and Nick. On your screen, you should see a Q&A box. Please feel free to submit your questions at any time and we'll address them at the end. So now let's dive into it. It's my pleasure to introduce our first speaker. As the Interim Executive Director of the Ohio Tuition Trust Authority, OTTA, Trisha Good is responsible for leading the agency and its 35 employees, recommending and implementing the investment strategy as approved by 11-member fiduciary investment board, and managing the overall operations of the Ohio's 529 plan, CollegeAdvantage. Ms. Good has been serving as the Chief Financial Officer and Chief Investment Officer since 2010. Prior service with OTTA includes Investment Officer from 2000 to 2010 and the Comp Controller from 1996 to 2000. Ms. Good has previously worked with the Ohio Student Aid Commission, MPW, the Industrial Services, a local CPA firm, and Savings and Loan in the Columbus area. It's my pleasure to welcome Trisha Good.
Great, thank you so much. I look forward to giving this presentation to you. Let us share our screen here. So good afternoon. Again, I'm Trisha Good, the Interim Director of the Ohio Tuition Trust Authority. I've been with the agency since 1996 in the Finance and Investment Department and was recently named the Interim Executive Director in April of this year. Qualified tuition programs became part of the Small Business Protection Act of 1996. 529 plans were created in the Internal Revenue Code named after Section 529 and included tax-advantaged accounts for participants. The Internal Revenue Code allows for states and qualified educational institutions to offer 529 plans. 529 plans were created to make college more affordable. Investment earnings grow tax-free, and withdrawals or distributions are not taxed when used for qualified expenses. I'll cover what is included in a qualified expenses later in this presentation. The Internal Revenue Code created 529 plans with states as sponsors as a way to make college more affordable. There are 529 plans in every state except Wyoming. Each state determines the kind of plans they offer, how many they offer, and how they are structured. Some states have direct plans, some states have advisor plans, and some states have both direct and advisor plans. Many states offer more than one plan. As of March 31st, 2023, Ohio is the 7th largest state-sponsored 529 plan with $15 billion assets under management and services over 681,000 accounts. It is administered by the Ohio Tuition Trust Authority. OTA is a state agency under the Ohio Department of Higher Education. OTTA reports into higher ed for non-investment matters, and higher education is a cabinet level agency for reporting into the governor. The 11-member OTTA investment board oversees all investment matters for Ohio's 529 plan. It is clear that education after high school is a financially smart move. Student loan debt in the U.S. as of February 2023 totals over $1.7 trillion. The outstanding federal loan balance is $1.6 trillion and accounts for 92.4% of all student loan debt. Approximately 45.3 million borrowers have federal student loan debt. The average federal student loan debt balance is over $37,000, while the average of all student loan debt, including private loans, is quickly approaching $40,000 per loan borrower. What makes 529 plans the best way to save for college? It's taxes. 529 plans grow tax-free and qualified distributions are tax-free. Most individuals understand the benefits of compounding. The chart at the right provides an example of the benefits of compounding in a tax-free 529 plan. In this example, the account in the 529 plan realizes an additional $7,000 in savings if all assumptions disclosed at the bottom of the slide are realized. As I mentioned earlier, withdrawals from 529 plans are tax-free when used for qualified expenses. 529 plans provide great flexibility, and the federal government has continued to expand the qualified uses for 529 plans. Qualified uses include tuition, required fees, books, computers and required equipment and services, room and board on campus, or the equivalent costs for off-site housing. In more recent years, the federal government has broadened the definition of qualified expenses to include the following. In 2018, up to $10,000 for private K-12 education expenses. In 2019, up to $10,000 for student loan repayment for the beneficiary and a sibling and apprenticeship programs. The program must be registered with the Secretary of Labor's National Apprenticeship Act. And more recently, Secured 2.0 Act of 2022 will allow any unused 529 plans to roll over to a Roth IRA for the same beneficiary without penalty. This is effective on January 1st, 2024 for the 2023 tax year, and some specific requirements must be met to qualify. The 529 account must be open for 15 years. The Roth IRA beneficiary and the 529 beneficiary needs to be the same individual. Contributions need to be in a 529 plan for at least 5 years before rolling to a Roth IRA. The yearly Roth IRA contribution limits do still apply, and the lifetime maximum is $35,000 to roll from a 529 plan to a Roth IRA. Please note the operational aspects of the rollovers from a 529 plan into a Roth IRA are still being finalized by the industry. And worth repeating, this qualified distribution becomes available on January 1st, 2024 for the tax year of 2023. From a state perspective, Ohio residents may deduct up to $4,000 per beneficiary on their state of Ohio tax return each year. It is important to note that the $4,000 is not a contribution limit or a cap. If an account owner contributes $6,000 in 2023, then they would deduct $4,000 on their 2023 tax return, and $2,000 of that would carry forward to a future year like 2024 or beyond. Contributions count for the current calendar year as long as OTTA receives them by 4 p.m. market close on the last business day of December. Ohio's 529 plan is flexible. It may be used for a variety of qualified expenses and can be used anywhere in the nation or at any school that participates in the federal student aid or FAFSA program. Ohio's 529 plan has been used at over 30,000 schools nationwide. In the direct plan, we offer 22 investment options for savers of all income levels, investment experience, and with varying goals and risk tolerance. Please note, OTTA employees cannot provide any financial advice as we are not licensed. We can only provide education on our options. One way we can help educate our customers and prospective customers is with the tools we have available on our website to help customers map out their personal savings goals. Ohio's advisor plan, which is offered through BlackRock, who acts as the program manager, also has 22 investment options. Investors will work through a financial advisor to access the advisor plan. Now that I have talked about Ohio's 529 plan, let's shift the presentation to discuss how 529 plans affect financial aid. Please consult your tax advisor for specific tax planning and advice. 529 accounts can be considered a parent asset, be in a custodial account, a UGMA or a UTMA, or can be considered a student asset. If the parent is the account owner, currently 5.64% of the value of the 529 account is included in the expected family contribution calculation for federal financial aid purposes. This is the amount reported on the FAFSA. FAFSA is working to simplify its processes. However, it can still be confusing. The calculations are complicated and the federal financial aid eligibility rules are subject to change. If a grandparent or other person other than the parent or beneficiary is the account owner, the account does not have to be reported on the FAFSA. However, withdrawals from a 529 plan owned by a grandparent or other person, anybody except for the parent or beneficiary, will be included in the income portion of the financial aid formula in the year of receipt. Here we provide a simple example of a $10,000 Ohio 529 plan account. Only $564 would be counted as a parental asset. So having a 529 account really doesn't significantly impact financial aid awards. Many individuals have asked us, what if my child gets a scholarship or grant? Most financial aid packages don't cover 100% of all expenses. So here's where you could use a 529 plan to make up all or some of the shortfall. It is important to know if your beneficiary receives scholarships or attends a U.S. military academy, non-qualified withdrawals up to the amount of the tax-free scholarship can be taken out without the 10% penalty, but you will have to pay income tax on the earnings. So what if my beneficiary doesn't attend college? The good thing is that there is no end date or use by date with 529 plans. You have a few options. You could leave the funds on account and continue to make contributions for a future use. You could transfer all or a part of the funds to another qualified member of the family. You could also withdraw the money. However, you will need to pay tax on the earnings and a penalty of 10% on the earnings in that account for a non-qualified withdrawal. As previously stated, the 10% penalty may be waived for a scholarship or attendance at a U.S. military academy, and also in the unfortunate event of death or permanent disability of the beneficiary, but you still would need to pay taxes on the investment earnings. 529 plans have a wonderful grandparent appeal. If a grandparent opens and funds an account for a grandchild, they do not need to use the funds, and they do not use the funds, they can be transferred to another qualified family member. A qualified family member is defined by the federal government to be child, biological, adopted, step or half, and their descendants, siblings, biological or step, and their descendants, parents, biological step, and their ancestors, aunts, uncles, and first cousins of the beneficiary or in-laws, or any spouse of the individuals mentioned above. Ohio's 529 plan offers a gifting option for anyone that wants to contribute to a loved one's 529 plan. The gift announcements are personalized cards that we can mail for you. You can order them through our website at www.collegeadvantage.com, or you can contact our customer service department by calling 1-800-AFFORD-IT. Our phones are staffed Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Some special occasions you might want to consider a 529 gift include baby showers, births, adoptions, birthdays, holidays, or other special occasions such as graduations from the various age groups in school, preschool, kindergarten, grade school, middle school, and of course, high school, or other major achievements, or just because you want to give a 529 gift. How do you start? And more importantly, when do you get started? Every family is approaching savings differently and has different goals. Some families want to save some or maybe half of the cost associated with college or education after high school. Other families might want to save most or all of the cost. It is an individual or family decision, and that decision might change over time. The good thing is Ohio's 529 plan has a plan for all of those options, and it only takes $25 to get started. It's never too early to start a 529 plan. You can even establish the account with you as the named beneficiary before a baby's arrival, and then transfer it to the child once you have a child's social security number. Excuse me. Excuse me. As a reminder, the limits for calendar year 2023 are account limits for contributions is $523,000. Pardon me. The annual gift tax exclusion for 2023, $17,000 for individuals and $34,000 for married couples. When you are ready to get started, we have an easy-to-use website, collegeadvantage.com, and a call center located in Columbus, Ohio. We also have a mobile app called Ready Save. Excuse me, 529. Just download the application from your app store. Select Ohio's 529 for your as your 529 plan. Excuse me, Judy's going to take over while I control my cough.
Well, Trisha did a great job, and we're actually at the end now. As Trisha mentioned, we do have a app for your mobile phone. It is called Ready Save 529. You can go to your app store with an Android or an iPhone, regardless of what you have, you will be able to find that app. And again, it is Ohio's 529 that you want to look for. The last slide is simply that just some resources that we've used in regards to being able to give you the information along with our information on Ohio's 529. And again, we say thank you for the opportunity to participate in this webinar, and we look forward to any questions that you may have. Mackenzie?
Great. Thank you, Trisha, for that insightful information. And I understand the coughing right now. Allergies are terrible around here.
Yes.
So hopefully we'll be okay for the Q&A session. But next, I am excited to introduce our next speaker. As we all know, UC is a premier public and research university that's dedicated to our undergrad, graduate, and professional education, experience-based learning and research. The University of Cincinnati offers our students a balance of educational excellence and real-world experience. Star speaker Nick Rejban is the Assistant Director of Admissions with the Office of Admissions here at UC. Nick will highlight the value of a UC degree and what makes UC one of the top schools in the country. Please help me welcome Nick.
Hello, folks. Thanks so much for being here today. Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you a little bit more about the University of Cincinnati. Obviously, you all know it very well from your own experience. But as you all know, and as that iconic joke goes, UC is always under construction, and that's a good thing, right? There's so many amazing things happening right now on campus. I just on my walk from my garage over to my office, I walk by and see Clifton Court Hall ready to open. It's just getting its final touches. I walk by and I see our athletic complex. They tore down the bubble and now they're building a brand new complex for it. And that's obviously in addition to all the amazing programs and opportunities that are being developed by expert faculty. So UC is an amazing place. It's an exciting time in its history. And so I'm excited to talk to you a little bit more about it. As you may have heard in various messaging, whether it's from the Alumni Association or even in other capacities, UC really commits itself to providing a useful education. I think that is a really important element about a UC degree, is that it comes with this promise that a student who attends and joins this Bearcat family will graduate and will graduate with a degree and that plan for their future. I think what makes that so important is that now we see that, as Trisha mentioned, right, there's an important element of the fiscal reason for going to college, but there's so much more to it, right? College is not just a transaction; it's an opportunity to transform into a person that is a global citizen, that is a member of our society, and also, you know, helps achieve personal, career, academic, and other goals. And so, this Bearcat Promise is really a commitment to all the student resources and support that UC offers. I think the most significant way that this Bearcat Promise is realized is through experience-based learning. Now, UC isn't a newcomer to this experience-based learning game, right? We all know that internships matter, that those research opportunities matter. And UC is not a newcomer to that, because back in 1906, we founded cooperative education, which really brings to the front what it means to tie that work experience into the classroom. And it actually taps into a very important pedagogy that UC believes in, that you learn better. You learn that theoretical abstract concept better by being in the world around you. And so for programs in engineering, in design, in business, and even in some programs in the College of Arts and Sciences, they're either a co-op required, so you must have co-op to join, to graduate with that degree, or it's a co-op optional program, which means that co-op can be a supplemental component. So what does co-op look like then? Well, it means that you might take full time off from your course load to work at a company. And that means you might work in Cincinnati, you might work around the world. There's a cool series right now going on the UC Instagram page where they're highlighting some of our students who are doing co-ops in places like Germany, Chicago, and New York. And so you see students getting out there into the real world and working on really meaningful projects. I know that there are students who do things that they didn't even think they could do, right? They didn't even think that's a possible option. But one of my student workers in the Office of Admissions, he's an aerospace engineering major, and he really credits his co-ops at GE Aviation and at Pratt Whitney for really helping not only develop his passion for the field, but also helping develop that sense of clarity. What does that plan for his future look like? Now, obviously, co-op is just one of the many ways that students get experiential learning. And you also see opportunities for research come out for undergraduate students, because UC is committed to that through being an a Research One, R1 institution. What that looks like is that our faculty are performing research at the highest level. They're at the cutting edge. And because they're at the cutting edge, they want to bring students into the fold and help them develop those research skills too. And so you see faculty tapping into that passion and excitement that undergrads have And you see that really coming out in some pretty cool ways. Now, obviously, you can also see those variety of different opportunities. Artistic performances are huge, especially for our students in the College Conservatory of Music who are performing not just in the local stages, but going to Broadway, going to LA. And just a fun fact about our College Conservatory of Music, they are actually one of the most represented academies and conservatories on Broadway. They're amongst the top 5, right? And so you really see that all these different ways that students have to make the academic experience fit into the world around them really helps get them moving forward. And I would be remiss if I did not mention how valuable the city of Cincinnati is to our students, not just from a career perspective, while that is, of course, beneficial, right? You see all these different skyscrapers with Fortune 500 companies, and UC is proud that Cincinnati has really contributed to its economic development, proud to contribute to the economic development of the city and the metro area. Just recently, our economic development office noted that UC contributes every year about 10 billion to the area GDP and economy. And so there's a lot of really great growth that Cincinnati contributes, and in turn, we contribute to Cincinnati. I think the most important thing about being an urban campus is that it means there's a buzz. There's always something going on, whether that's a festival, whether that's athletic games, whether that's arts and museums and culture or restaurants. There's always something going on. And I really like the story of an entrepreneurship major in the Lindner College of Business who is a self-avowed sneakerhead, as they call them, where he really loves selling sneakers. But he found that Cincinnati was a great market for it, and through the entrepreneurship lab at the Lindner College of Business, actually started his own sneaker shop in Over the Rhine, which is located in Cincinnati. It's one of the trendiest neighborhoods, and has been noted by the New York Times as one of those iconic American urban areas. And so he started his own company, his own storefront, and it's still down there in OTR. And he's having the greatest time of his life. And so Cincinnati is an amazing place to be. Now, I do want to talk a little bit about the application process to kind of help clarify what it means to apply to be a Bearcat. I think something that's so important about Cincinnati is that we are not just one campus. We are actually 3 campuses at Blue Ash, at Batavia, also known as UC Claremont, and then the Uptown campus. And why is that important? Because it means that at UC there are multiple pathways to a degree. What that means then is that if you are cost conscious and thinking about how that 529 plan is going to really be maximized for your children, well, UC Blue Ash and Claremont operate as regional campuses. So they offer primarily 2-year associate's degrees. And those associate's degrees either go into technical careers, so you could become a vet tech, you could become a radiological technician just from those 2-year degrees alone. But they also offer pathway programs. So if you wanted to study a 4-year business degree, you could actually start at UC Blue Ash or Claremont as a pre-business administration student, get your associates in business administration, and then finish 2 more years at the Uptown campus and graduate with that bachelor's. And the biggest difference is tuition, right? It's about half the cost to go to Blue Ash and Claremont as it is to Uptown, and so that cost differential can make a difference. I bring that up to say that otherwise a student is a UC student, and really to that extent they can still live in campus housing, still participate in clubs and organizations, and still make the most out of their campus experience. Now, when it comes to the application, if you are interested in that Blue Ash or Claremont experience, it's not going to be on the Common App, right? We want to make it a little bit less complicated. And so we have you apply on the admissions website at admissions.uci.edu/apply. If you're applying for the Uptown campus, these are, again, primarily bachelor's degree programs. You're applying directly to an academic college in all cases, actually, specifically to an academic program itself. So we are a direct entry school. You would apply using the common application. Now, when you apply, you are selecting two major options, and there is an important element here. When you select major one, that's the first major you'll select, and it'll note itself as major one. You're applying to that as a first choice program, which means that you will first be considered for that major. And if you are admissible to that program, then you are admitted, right? There's no need to even consider your second choice program. Now, if you are not admissible, and just to clarify too, that might be because the program is closed and so therefore they're not considering applicants for that program, then you would be considered for the major two selection. And that way you're still receiving that consideration to a major that you otherwise would be very happy to pursue. Now, once you submit the Common App, and of course you may know there is an essay component to that. There's also the ability to share extracurricular involvement and other work experiences and all those good stuff. You'll also want to submit your high school transcript. Now, submitting that transcript can be done one of two ways. It can either be done unofficially, which means that your student would just upload a PDF copy of their transcript in their applicant portal, which they will get access to after they apply, or they can have their high school send us their transcript directly. That's considered an official submission method. And effectively what that means is that the high school will send it digitally or via mail directly to UC. We'll process it, add it to the student's file. Now, something of note is that we are also test optional and do not require letters of recommendation as part of the application process. Now, why are we test optional? We are test optional because we don't see the compelling argument that every student is best represented by their standardized test score. Now, it doesn't mean to say that some students aren't, and we are seeing still a good chunk of students submit their test scores, and we are very happy to see that. But for every program except for our BSN nursing program, we are a test optional institution. So it is up to your student to determine if they want to submit that test score. If you want to have, and this is obviously a conversation that is very individualized, and so I would encourage you, you're welcome to ask questions about it, but I would encourage you to schedule a one-on-one appointment or just give our admissions office a call to talk with a counselor, because we are very happy to talk through kind of when to determine if it is important to send that score. Now, obviously, as a public institution for Ohio, we do have an in-state and out-of-state differential. Now, if you are an in-state student, that means you are considered an Ohio resident, and there are some rules around what residency looks like. And again, that information can be found online. Then you would only be on the hook for that in-state tuition rate. Now, what's important about that in-state tuition rate is that that locks in for all 4 years or 5 years if you're in a co-op program, excuse me, all of that undergraduate career, 8 semesters, that is covered by the Cincinnati tuition guarantee, which means that year over year, your student's tuition will not increase. Now, when it comes to out-of-state residents, we don't consider Indiana or Kentucky residents to be out of state. We actually consider them to be a metropolitan rate, which means that at most, a student would pay the in-state equivalent plus an additional $300 per semester for a full-time student. So that totals approximately $600 extra per year. Now, if you're a part-time student, for example, that would be $25 per credit hour, and then there's that $300 cap. Now, again, that is also covered by that Cincinnati tuition guarantee, and again, would not increase year over year. Now, if you are outside of that Ohio, Kentucky, or Indiana region, then you would be paying that out-of-state tuition rate. But the important thing to know is that the thing that's locked in is the in-state tuition portion of that out-of-state tuition, but then there's the non-resident surcharge. That unfortunately is not covered by the tuition guarantee. So that component of the tuition may increase year over year, but whatever is considered the base amount for the in-state tuition would not increase year over year. So what that does mean is that any increase is not necessarily going to be a fully fledged 3 or 4%. It might feel more like a 1 to 2% increase. Room and board that is a 9-month room and meal plan policy. And that range is attributed to the different types of residence hall experiences that we have. So we have traditional residence halls, we have suite style, and then we also have apartment style that are open to first year and upperclassmen students. And again, the good news is that that is locked in to the tuition guarantee. Now, when it comes to scholarships, I do want to be very clear that there is not a chart that we use. We don't say if you have this GPA and this test score, there's this wonderful scholarship waiting for you. We use a holistic review process. And what that means is that every student is considered within the context of their academic college that they're applying for, and then within the context of the materials that they share with us. And so that is truly where I would recommend a student to really put all that they do and all that they're part of into their application. So shout out those leadership experiences, shout out all the great work you're doing, whether it's in volunteering or research or anything else, because those components also play a factor in scholarship decisions. Obviously, a big part of it is academic merit, but that is not the sole driver of scholarship decisions. And as you can see, there is a huge range, anywhere from $1,500 per year all the way up to full tuition, fees, and room and board. Now, of course, when it comes to who gets these scholarships, for our incoming class, approximately 60 to 70% of our incoming class will be receiving a scholarship. And that is, again, part of that commitment that UC has towards reducing that cost of college. Now, I do want to just remind you all that if you have a student who is ready to apply for the fall of 2024, of one very important deadline, and that is December 1st. December 1st is our priority deadline for your application and materials. So that is an important distinction, that all of the materials and the application itself must be complete by that December 1st deadline. If you're waiting on a transcript, for example, to come along, so long as it's postmarked by December 1, that would do. Now, we also consider students for scholarships if they meet that December 1st deadline. So if you submit and have all those materials in by December 1, you will be automatically considered for those merit scholarships. And you can also receive consideration for the University Honors Program. Now, due to the change in the FAFSA for the upcoming year, we are still tentatively holding to December 1st. It's still possible that they might get it out before then as a priority. If not, we will absolutely adjust this into either January or into the early spring. But we do encourage a student to apply using the free application for federal student aid as soon as it opens. And that really is to ensure that you receive the maximum consideration for available funds. Now, those can include grants or loans or any other types of federal funding like a work-study opportunity. And again, getting that FAFSA in as soon as possible just ensures that you will receive that full consideration. A student who meets that December 1st deadline will then, of course, receive their decision in January. We are really excited to be able to have a common decision day if you meet that December 1st deadline. And so it's a pretty cool thing to be to have and to be a part of if you are applying for that term. And thank you so much for your time. I just wanted to include this slide because I think it's always fun to see the mascot, right? The #1 ranked mascot 2 years in a row, just giving you that big high five of, we're excited to welcome you to this Bearcat family. And so I appreciate your time today, folks. And if you do have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask.
Wonderful. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Trisha. I appreciate both of you for providing your insight. So now we're going to take time for Q&A. Thank you to those that have submitted questions in advance and have also entered questions into the Q&A box. I know Trisha has been answering some of them as we're going, and both of your presentations have been very informative and have actually answered quite a few of the questions that were submitted in advance. I'm going to ask my first question to Nick. Nick, when should a high school student start to do campus visits? And do you have a recommendation of how many a student should visit?
That is an exceptional question because it, definitely is a time commitment to visit colleges. I remember when I was going through that college process, It felt like, you know, you could dedicate whole weeks. And I remember my mom was even saying, like, Nick, like, I only have so much PTO. Like, I can't just take off whenever. But this is where I actually want to even draw one more element to it, is that it's okay for your child to visit a campus alone. I will say, if they can drive and they are comfortable being independent, it is okay. They will definitely get a good campus visit experience. So I know that there is always that anxiety of, oh, should I visit with my son or daughter? Again, we very much welcome you parents to join, but it is not a requirement. We do feel comfortable that your student can visit by themselves. But what we do recommend is that a student start visiting campuses as early as when they're ready. And I really want to emphasize that, when they're ready, right? I know that sometimes that traditional logic is that, oh, visit around junior year, right? Start maybe in the fall of junior year of high school. Sometimes some overzealous folks even think in the sophomore year. But if a student isn't ready to visit, I think it can be a wasted opportunity. And the reason why is because, you know, during a campus visit, they're going to see a lot and they're going to hear a lot of information. And the last thing we want is to overwhelm a student. We recognize that being a teenager is not easy. It unfortunately has not gotten easier. And so the last thing we want as admissions professionals is to be the people that scare them off of college altogether. And so please visit when you're ready. But I will say, visit as often and as many times as you can. Now, UC is not amongst the institutions that does this, but some institutions do track when you visit and how many times you do visit. That's something called demonstrated interest. And if a campus does consider that, then they might even kind of, it might be the thing that tips you in their favor in terms of bonus scholarships or even an admissions decision itself. So if you are in that if you have that ability to visit a campus, it may be worth it, and it could pay dividends in the long run. But generally speaking, visiting campus is always worth it. Do it when you're ready. To that extent, I don't necessarily have like a number, a target number as to how many, really just however many are on your list. But I would encourage to visit a variety and a diversity of campuses, right? Don't just stick to the one type. Even if your student says, I know I don't want to go to a big school, still visit one anyway. You never know. It can be one of those things where you don't know what you don't know. So go out and try it. And if you don't like it, you can leave whenever you want. I promise no one holds you hostage on a campus visit. If you just want to leave, we will happily tell you how to get back to your car. The one thing I will say about visiting campuses as well is that don't just limit it to the campus visit. Sometimes, UC included, we have other visit opportunities like open houses or special visit days for different academic programs. And so if you're thinking, I want to learn a little bit more, but maybe it's specifically about the Lindner College of Business, or maybe it's specifically about the College of Design, Art, Architecture, and Planning, see if they offer those visit days. We do. I can say that with confidence, we do. And so please don't hesitate to kind of ask what is available. Obviously, we try to post as much on the website as we can, but please don't hesitate to reach out if there's anything we can do to kind of help tailor that visit as best we can to what you're looking for. Anything that we can do to help make your campus visit a success is something that we'll try to do.
Wonderful. Thanks, Nick. My next question is for Trisha, but I do also want to introduce, joining Trisha on the screen is Judy Cunningham. She is public relations and the community outreach manager at Ohio's 529 plan. So Trisha, you mentioned that others can add to a child's 529 plan. Does it matter the state? Can anyone add to that?
Yeah, that's a great question, Mackenzie. Anybody can add to a 529 plan. And furthermore, if you're an Ohio resident, you could also receive the $4,000 tax deduction on Ohio's tax return. So for my specific example, my children, my sister sometimes contributes to their account, and she also gets the tax deduction because she is an Ohio resident.
Perfect, thank you. Trisha, I'm going to stick with you. So if someone doesn't live in Ohio and they are interested in learning about a similar plan, what is the best way to find those resources?
We have several industry groups that follow 529. Savingforcollege.com is a group that, or a website that customers could go to. The College Savings Network Plan, they could go there and look. We have a variety of information on our website as well, collegeadvantage.com. So there are several ways that they could look for information on other state plans.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Nick, I have a question for you. Can you talk a little bit more about the scholarship process? Is there a list of scholarships for future UC students, or how do they find those?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the list that was in that slide, the Cincinnati scholarships, those are the ones that will be considered when a student is applying, and that's considered primarily through the financial aid office. Now, in the admissions office. Now, what I want to clarify is that each academic college might also have some scholarship funds that they consider a student for. And I think this is one of those weird quirks of large public institutions, but something that's important to know is that the central admissions office kind of facilitates much of that scholarship consideration up front, but each academic college does have a small pool, and these can be from donors or other endowed scholarships or whatever that they have discretion over. So each academic college does have a committee of folks who will review students that they are admitting for those scholarships as well. Now, some of those are for incoming students. Some of those, sometimes many of those, are for current students. And so there isn't necessarily a full list per se, in the sense that sometimes those lists are updated. And so because of that, it's not something that you can easily find on the admissions webpage, for example. We do have a list, but it's primarily for the ones that we will consider a student for. Now, what is important is that when a student is admitted to UC, they also gain access to a scholarship search tool that will help them help match them to scholarships that are available not only at the university, but also broadly speaking as well. Maybe that's local organizations that have reached out to us saying, hey, I want to give a scholarship to a clarinetist who also wants to be a biology major or something, right? Like they'll kind of reach out to us for those things. And so that scholarships search tool is something that admitted students will gain access to. And we do encourage students to apply. I know my director of admission, for example, once got a scholarship for writing an essay about what type of pasta was better, right? Macaroni or penne pasta. He was arguing for the macaroni style. So, you really want to cast your net wide when it comes to applying for scholarships. I don't mean to overwhelm you, but the volume of scholarships you apply for does matter. If you apply for 100 scholarships, just as a hypothetical, there's a good chance you might get a couple, even if they're $500 or $1,000, you might get a few. And that is much more likely than if you only apply for 2. So I do encourage students, if they are thinking about what are those ways to get that scholarship consideration, to apply for as many as possible. But we will, again, consider a student automatically, again, using that holistic lens for those Cincinnati level scholarships. And that is kind of a part of the admissions process.
Trisha, I have a question for you. So if a student starts school, stops, maybe takes a few years off, and then goes back, does that affect their plan and how they use it?
No, it does not. You can keep the dollars on account really forever. There's no end date. There's no expiration date. And plans change over the years, and people may decide later in life to go back and get professional development where they need some tuition dollars or dollars for a room or books or something like that. So no, there is no end date with our 529 plans.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And Mackenzie, I think it's important also to say that we have students who have 529 accounts. Maybe they got a scholarship, and with their 529 account and the scholarship or the grant that they received, they may not have used all their funds, but they leave those funds in there thinking forward and thinking that eventually they'll have children who can use that account as well.
Yep. Nick, I have a pretty specific question for you. So if we have a parent with a student who is taking classes at Cincinnati State, how do they work to transfer over those credits for required classes at UC? And is there a way to check if classes will transfer over?
Absolutely. That is an amazing question and a huge, huge benefit, honestly, of the Ohio CCP College Credit Plus program, but really any opportunity for dual enrollment, AP or IB credits. Cincinnati is a very welcoming campus when it comes to those advanced credits. So on our website, you can find a whole list of how AP credits will transfer to UC classes. Simultaneous, same thing for IB. CCP, right? Dual enrollment operates the same way because they are college level classes, right? A student at Cincinnati State taking English 1001, right? That is a college level class through and through. And so something that we offer is a transfer equivalency database that you can find online. And I'll find the link for it and put it in the chat here. But what's great about it is that you can type in the institution that you attend, find the course that your student is taking at that institution, and then find the UC equivalency. Now, what is very, very important to identify is that Cincinnati State is a campus or is an institution that we have a lot of familiarity with. And so it is, I can't think that there'd be any class at Cincy State that we wouldn't have an equivalency for. I will say if you are attending a little bit of an institution that we haven't had a lot of familiarity with in terms of our credit evaluation team being able to determine if that credit will transfer, it might take a little bit longer. And so it might not be available on that equivalency database, in which case, when a student is enrolling, you will send your transcript to UC and we can provide an evaluation then. But let me get back to that question about CCP. How does that credit transfer? The important thing is that it might count for a class directly. So for example, English 1001 is a great example. It's a class that's required for all students at the university. If that is a class that a student is taking at Cincinnati State, it will absolutely count one for one because it kind of is part of that general education core that UC has. However, if there is a class that maybe is more of a major requirement, so if you are an engineering major and you are taking calculus, I will say that, that is because that's a major requirement. The College of Engineering actually has final say to determine if you would need to retake that class. It's not to say that you wouldn't get the credit. It's just to say you will get the credit in some capacity, whether it's an elective or a gen ed requirement, but we might still have you retake the class because it's part of our curriculum that we want to keep students in the same cohort on track in sequence. I think that is very important to mention because just because a student has, let's say, 30 CCP credits does not necessarily mean that they will be knocking a whole year off of their education progression if their major has those sequential components to it. That is a question that absolutely can be asked of our academic advisors, or excuse me, of our admissions recruiters within each academic college. They are very much more familiar with that than the central admissions office and would be best able to help advise around that. But I can say, right, because CCP is a Ohio dual enrollment program, that credit will count for something. It's just about what it exactly counts for may differ.
Thanks. So now, Trisha and Nick, we know that the application process starting an Ohio 529 plan, they're very specific to each individual, how much you're going to add, or the different things with the application process. So Trisha, let's start with you. I know you mentioned this on a slide, but if someone is interested about learning more or has very specific questions, how should they find someone to reach out to?
You can go to our website, collegeadvantage.com, or you can call our 800 number, 1-800-AFFORD-IT. We have a Columbus, Ohio call center that's available Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 6 p.m. Eastern time, and somebody can help you. And we are always out in the field throughout the state of Ohio at marketing events, at sporting events, at colleges, at community events. So you can track us down there, and we're happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thanks. And Nick, same to you. I know we're getting some really specific questions. How does someone reach out to the Office of Admissions?
That is, yes, absolutely. We have normal business hours, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Feel free to give us a call at 513-556-1100. And again, give us a call. We are very happy to help. I will say we're a full team, right? We have admissions counselors on staff every day of the week that can help kind of talk about those nuances that you might be looking for. You can also set up a virtual appointment, a phone appointment, I'm sorry, on our website as well. And we do it by territory. So each student is assigned a territory based off of where they attend high school. And so you are very welcome to also set up an appointment with your student's assigned admissions counselor. You can also email us at admissions@uc.edu. And I will say that while we do receive a high volume of emails during this period, this summer period, we don't receive as many as we would kind of in the fall and in the spring. So I can anticipate our response rates would either be same day, if not one business day. So we are pretty responsive by email as well.
Well, we are reaching the end of our time together. Before we say farewell, I do want to offer it, Trisha, anything else that you would like to add before we leave?
Yeah, thanks so much for having us today, Mackenzie. We really appreciate it. And one additional thing I wanted to say is you could visit our blog page at collegeadvantage.com for more information on a $10,000 sweepstakes with both the Cincinnati Reds and FC Cincinnati. So if you're interested, please visit those blog pages and go ahead and enter, and maybe you'll be one of the lucky ones that ends up winning a scholarship.
That's awesome. That's great. Nick, thank you for dropping that additional information in the chat. Anything else that you would like to add?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of anxiety around the college process, and that makes total sense. And I want to say, don't feel like you have to bottle that down and suppress it. But the amazing thing about the college process is that it's a really great opportunity to connect with your student and to really build a partnership. I think that is something that's so fun as an admissions counselor, is to see students and parents walking hand in hand on their way in for tours and stuff, and just see that energy of like just amazing energy of love and support that kind of comes along with it. And so, yes, your students might be frustrated. They might say, I want to go to California just to get out of Ohio, right? Or they say, I want to go to Florida just because I want to go someplace warm. And just be a partner with your student. I think that is a really great thing when you can see your student grow as part of their college process as well. I know that there's so much to consider: cost, location, academic experience, outcomes, all those things. But really at the end of the day, if you're a partner with your student, you will have a really great opportunity, or you'll have a really great experience with it. And us as admissions counselors are really here to help. I know that there can be a misconception that we are salespeople for the institution, and maybe there is some truth to that. But really, at the end of the day, we got into this field and profession because we want to see students go to college. We want to see students succeed and achieve their academic career and life goals. And so for us, that's why we do what we do. So please don't hesitate to count us as partners in your college process as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Trisha and Nick. It's been a great webinar, and thank you everyone for joining us. As I mentioned at the beginning, I will send a follow-up email that will include some additional information about the 529 plan and the University of Cincinnati's Office of Admission. And we'll also have a recording of this webinar available soon. So thank you, everyone, and have a great afternoon.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.